Hey there, welcome to 757 Spy Flight over on YouTube, and welcome to Simulated Memphis, where we've got some high clouds, some nice sun, and a very, very big airplane with a cute little panda bear on the side of the airplane. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name's Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch, and every now and then I like to come over here to YouTube and do what I call a complete cold and dark flight. These are literally all the buttons that you need to know about as far as how to make these increasingly complex airplanes work. Always like to start these videos by saying this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what works in the sim that I've found for today. And I'm really going to date this video today because as of today, the city of Houston is getting ready for the arrival of a big hurricane a little earlier in the season this year, and it's right off the Texas coast. And so what we're going to do today is what I'm going to call a cargo flight. And so what they're going to do is probably go and take this big old airplane in, deliver some supplies in before we get to the before the hurricane. Now, they'll also fly all of their airplanes out before the hurricane hits, and then they'll all be ready for another round of shipments in. That's what the cargo companies like to do to help out. So we've got this airplane on the ground here. This is a very, very nice big old MD11 FedEx. Had a nice big panda bear on the side too, which, you know, makes it unbearably cute. And we're going to get ready for some bear jokes too. So let's go ahead and take a little look here at the weather by way of Navigraph charts right now. This is our flight route today, and as we come on in here, this is the current picture. Our flight route taking us from Memphis down to Houston. You can kind of see, if we put the map into motion here, the radar portion of this, you can see a little bit of the spin here to give you an idea of where the center of the storm is. Now you see some really light blue areas here and dark blue. That's the line where ground shore-based radar shows up. So you can't see anything in the dark blue areas there. So it's slowly starting to make its way on in. In fact, if you look over here, it looks like one of the first rain bands of the storm is going to start making its way into the Houston area pretty much as we are getting ready to arrive in there. So the ground crew, they would unload the airplane, they get some airplane, get it loaded, and get the plane out before the bulk of the storm is going to hit. We've also got a big low pressure system here that went out of the Denver area. That's going to be mostly heading towards the east, maybe the east-southeast, so that might be a problem when we come on back in. So that is a quick look at the weather. That's kind of one of our challenges there. Austin is showing up here on the map because that's going to be our alternate for today. If you look along the bottom of my Navigraph charts here, you see that I've got charts already stacked up. Right now, Memphis is departing on the 36s. We're going to blast off on 36 center, very probably. So taxi down, long runway for departure, and then it's the Childers departure. We've got 5,000 feet as our initial climb as we take off to the north and go out over Childers. Gesner is the arrival coming on into Houston. It's the Sawmill arrival that's going to set us up here at Cassett, I'm guessing, Cassett, and that's going to set us up for the ILS for runway 8 left. That's the north runway. Perfect for our cargo operations as we come on in here and go over here. Now, there's actually several cargoes, and I was recently just reminded that FedEx is actually, I believe, down here. So I think they're actually down here at Cargo Central, so as opposed to East Cargo. So we've actually might have a little bit of a longer taxi as we come on in. So that's the flight plan for today. We've already got the flight plan through SimBrief. There is the PDF file for the flight plan. We're going to be carrying, our total weight is 436,000 pounds. That's the airplane. The cargo is going to be about 179,000 pounds worth of stuff back in the airplane. So how do I get going with all of this? Well, this is my cold and dark setup for this particular airplane. The airplane is down. It's powered off. We do have chocks in place. So as we take a look at the airplane here, you can look down and see there is, I believe I've got chocks in place. I don't see them right now. Oh yeah, they're there. They're just real dark. And then you could also hear the diesel here of the ground power unit. So this is my complete and total cold and dark setup. And so to get into the airplane, we'll just go ahead and hit this button and come on down here to the electronic flight bag. This is one of those amazing airplanes. This is a huge cockpit. The visibility in the cockpit is really, really nice out of the windows because I think this is the jetliner that had the biggest cockpit windows. So the pilots here get quite the view on this one. Okay, so how do we do this? If you'd like to learn, best thing for you to do is go and pause the video, start the flight simulator, put your airplane on the ground with me at Memphis so that you can push buttons along with me at the same time. Another thing you might do is go quickly to Google and do a Google search for MD11 space checklist space PDF. And that will give you a checklist that you could use, kind of like the one that I've downloaded and printed off here. It's basically the one for Lufthansa Cargo. There's also checklists for FedEx that you can go and download too over on the internet. And this is kind of a complex plane, so this is one that I kind of keep the checklist handy on. Okay. First thing that I like to do is make sure that my USB controllers are all connected to the airplane. Move the rudder pedals, make sure the landing gear lever is down. Speed brakes are up. Speed brakes are down, flaps are up. Parking brakes are off right now because we've got chocks in place. And then that's pretty much it. First thing that I'll do is come over to the electronic flight bag, and I'm going to go to services. And you can see I've got a ground power unit in place and my chocks are in place. I'm going to open the passenger door and the cargo door. And you can come over here and see they've really done some work on the airplane lately. TFDI really smoothed out the animations, and it's looking pretty good right now. Couple of things are still missing, not much though. And one of the things we've also are getting ready to do over on the Spy Flight on Twitch is we're going to take this plane out. One of the things the airplane has is it has CPDLC. So you can do your clearances via the digital network and not have to get on the radio and ask for your clearance, which is a real time saver over on a Frankfurt Friday. The next thing that I'm going to do is slide on over and I'm going to go to the payload button and I'm going to flip it over from passenger and cargo to 0 fuel weight. Another thing you need to do with this airplane, if you can, put in your SimBrief user ID over here in options. Also sign up for a Hoppy ACARS so that you can get weather and other digital text messaging stuff over there too. I'm not showing that page because I think it still shows your passwords and stuff. Okay, back to the dispatch page. Currently, we do not have a SimBrief plan loaded, so import the flight plan. And there it is. There's our flight plan, Memphis to Houston. And there we go. So that takes care of that. Now let's go ahead and start flipping on switches. First thing I do is come on up to the upper panel. And if you look up here, there is a battery button, which is really what you do with the big jets. Hit the battery button, and that goes on. And all of a sudden, you hear blowers going on. There's a lot of fans and stuff in this airplane because a lot of this gear needs to be kept cool. First thing I'm going to do is come down here. I'm going to turn on my nav lights, the lights on the tail and on the wingtips, let people on the ground know that there's, some idiot up in the cockpit pushing buttons and, watch out. The airplane could start moving. So that's how that they're doing something with this airplane. The other thing is you heard I had ground power on. So here is external power, and we're going to pop that on. And more blowers start going. It gets even noisier. After we've done that, I'm going to flip on emergency power, and now we'll go and adjust a few more lights. First things first, arm the emergency exit lights, and then I'll come over here to the overhead panel, and I'm going to turn the backlighting on the instrument panel up about halfway. If it's dark, if it's going to get dark on the flight, I'll turn the little black knob in the middle. The inner knob, I'll turn it up one click. That's the floodlight. We don't need the floodlight on this one though. Okay, the next thing I'll do is come down here and do the same thing with this one. This is FGS, Flight Guidance System. And I'm going to go ahead and turn that on, which is backlighting on this one too. Might make it a little bit brighter down here. And the airplane continues to buzz and come to life very, very nicely. So looking good, looking outside. We're not rolling around or anything, so the chocks are holding. So now let's go ahead and start loading it on up. You can do several things with this, and it's really nice. I'm going to start by doing send flight plan to FMC. Click. And then you'll see green down here, flight plan sent. Now I'm going to hit set payload and fuel. The same little green box pops down there, and that basically tells you you're fueled. The flight plan's been sent to the flight management computer, and all the cargo's been loaded back there. So you're essentially ready to go. Now I'm going to flip to payload, and you can see payload has changed. And one of the things we'll do over here is look in and see 0 fuel weight, we're in pounds, and 436.9. If you look at your flight plan, go to page 1, it says here 0 fuel weight, 436.919, that's 436.9. So our fuel, our payload was set correctly. I'll usually look at that number or maybe a fuel number or something like that. Okay, so now it's time to come on down and start doing flight management computer things. And we're going to hit the FMC and check my nav data. If you've got Navigraph, check your Navigraph data. Mine's good until the 10th of July. So flight plan init. And if you look at the top, it says Memphis to Houston. So all of a sudden it looks like some of the data's in. I usually go from the top down. So the next thing I'm going to put in is my alternate airport, which is KAUS, Austin Bergstrom. The next line I'm going to do is flight number, which is going to be an FDX flight, flight 441, and put that in. And then the next line over here says position ref. So top to bottom is the way that I work these things. And we need to change that to initialization of our position. So we're going to come back up here. And if you look up here, we've got nav, nav, and nav. They're all off right now. So I'm going to kind of go up here because that's the cargo fire. So we're going to turn nav 1 on. And this does your cargo fire test. When you turn on nav 1, that tests all the cargo fire stuff. Then we'll do nav 2 and then aux, auxiliary navigation. Okay, those 3 are on. Come back down the flight management computer, then hit initialize IRS. I have forgotten that on occasion, and if you do, then all of a sudden when you try to move the airplane, you'll look over here and say, wait a minute, I don't have anything here. There's no navigation gear. What's going on? Navigation in here. And that's because you forgot to do that, and that's 8 minutes unless you're doing the instantaneous stuff. SimBrief, in its wisdom, has given us flight level 340, and most all of the cost indexes that I've been able to find on this, a few of them are 200, a few of them are 80, so we're just going to go with 200 on this, and that takes care of page 1. There's 3 pages for this, so let's go to page 2, and this is going to be our block fuel and our 0 fuel weight and a few other numbers that you can plug in here. So let's start with our 0 fuel weight. Remember, that's over here. 0 fuel weight, so 436.9. Let's go 436.9, and that goes in 0 fuel weight. Next, I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to hit the engine button, and all of these buttons underneath fuel switches, they control what you see in this far monitor over here. Okay? And then we'll come over to this one and check the fuel. It's 53,900 pounds of fuel. Look here for fuel. This fuel order that we put in was 53,895. It rounded it up. I'll take a few extra drops. It never hurts. So 53.9. Let's come on down here. And block fuel is 53.9. And that goes there. Next, we're going to do taxi fuel. Our taxi fuel for today is this line here, and that's going to be 3,500 pounds of fuel, so 3.5, and that goes in there. The only other number that I'm able to plug into this with any success is reserve, and I'm not sure which one of these to plug in, contingency, alternate, or final reserve. So what I do is I grab the bottom number down here, which is final reserve and alternate. That's those 3 numbers added together, and that's going to be 19,175 pounds. I'm just going to put that in as 19.2. So 19.2 is going to be my route reserve. As far as putting alternate and final time, I can't put any of that in. I can't plug those numbers in, so I'm just putting that number in. I don't know if that's right or not. It's just what's working for me right now. And then finally, we're going to go to 0 fuel weight center of gravity. We're going to just click it. It's going to go get our center of gravity. I'm going to click the one on the top, which is takeoff center of gravity, and we're all good to go there. So that looks really good. Let's go ahead and do a quick check of what the weather's like for us right now. And a great way to do that is if you've got Navigraph, go to flights and actually go to airports and Memphis and weather. And oh my gosh, there is your METAR right there. And so our METAR, and you can also copy and paste this. So you can copy it out of there, which is really nice. And these are my flight notes. So I'm going to just paste that in there right now. By the way, a copy of my flight notes that you see here, those flight notes that you see there, look in the description below. If you'd like to put this in your own notepad, you just copy and paste it in there, and it's all ready to go. So we've got that, and that means we can set our altimeter, which is 3000. So altimeter is 3000, and so there's where you set it there. And as you turn the dials here, you hear a lot of clunk, clunk, clunk. This is a very metallic, clunky airplane. Wait till you hear the sound of the gear lever. It's priceless. Okay, so all of this looks good. Remember, our block fuel is 53.9. This is where you would, if you've refueled the airplane, you'd put that number in. 53.9 is what I'm putting in right now. And that's good. Now we're going to go do our flight plan. So here in Memphis, we're going to start, and our runway for departure is, we decided to make that 36 right. So, no, 36 center is going to be our runway for departure. So let's go and grab that. 36 center. There it is. And we're doing the Childers 5 departure. And their transition is ANSWA. So we've got that, and that's good, and we'll insert it. Then we can go through and we can check this against our flight plan like the real pilots would do. I mean, they would read every one of these to make sure that that is correct. Gillette, Cayman, SWB. Okay, there's that waypoint. That's the last waypoint before Houston. Coming into Houston, we're expecting 08 left, right? Or did we want... Yeah, 08 left. That's the one on the north side. Actually, since we're going to the other one, SimBrief actually put me on the other side. How about if we go ahead and cut down on our taxi time? So let's go to approaches, and instead of 08 left, let's go ahead and grab 08 right. And that one might reduce our taxi time just a little bit. So that might be nice. So let's go ahead and check that one off. 08 right. And then we're going to be doing the Gesner 1 arrival, and that's via SWB. And then after that, Lassie, Toro, or Walden's. So there's Toro up there. What do we have over here? So there's Cast. Here's Cast. So after we come in at King World, it's Zoe and Cast. There is that, let's see, my guess, or is that going to be Howland? Either or, I'm going to guess for the arrival, let's see, either Lassie or Walden's or Toro. Let's make it simple and let's do the Lassie transition, because that's going to basically be vectors. And it's just going to be us flying, so that's going to make our flight a little bit simpler. And insert. Okay, flight plan's done. Next thing I'm going to do is come down here, and I'm going to switch to the hydraulic button. And if we look over here, you can see now this is in the hydraulic page. Come up here, and there's a button up here, and you hit the hydraulic pressurization test. And that's going to test your whole hydraulic system. This airplane tended to leak a lot of hydraulic fluid and oil. This is a really leaky old jet. So now it's going to do the hydraulic pressure test. It'll pressurize the whole thing. In the real world, the pilot, you don't press that button until your other pilot is doing a walk around and ensure that there's no vehicles under the wings, because apparently the pressure test in the real airplane moves control surfaces. So they have to give you a thumbs up and say it's okay to do the hydraulic pressure test, so because there's nobody, there's no big trucks under there, and the flap isn't going to come down and damage the airplane or the truck. And now you can see this thing's going up and hydraulics are being tested. Cool. The departure for us today is going to be the Childers departure, and Childers said that our initial climb clearance is 5,000 feet. So let's do 5,000 feet in here. There's 5,000 feet. Very good. And our runway heading on departure is going to be 360. Boy, that's easy. 360. That's set. Okay, looking pretty good. So the airplane is loaded. While we're doing the hydraulic pressure test, I'm going to go to services, and we're going to close cargo main and passenger. So we're going to close the doors. Passenger, captain, first officer aboard, I'm sure that, Tom Hanks may be deadheading back there with a couple of Wilson volleyballs, a reference to the movie Castaway. And so we'll close up the doors, and everything's looking great. And you can see over here, it says hydraulic pressure test is done. So it's changed. So I'm going to go back to the config page now. Let's do the fire test. And the voice you hear is the voice of Betty. Hey, Betty.
Engine 1, fire. Engine 2, fire. Engine 3, fire.
Now, while you're holding this, you could also hold your mouse button down while you've clicked that button, and you can move around and look and see, are all the instruments down here working for your fire test. Then just release the mouse button, and it stops the fire test. That's a cool little thing you can do with most all the jets in simulator is check those out. And so now that we've done that, we're going to come up here, and the button underneath the external power is APU power. We're going to just hit that button. Now the APU start button is way up here, but if you hit the APU power button, it says, oh, that pilot must want the APU, so we'll turn it on. So that was part of the automation that they set up in this old airplane, because the whole point in the DC-10, they had a flight engineer back there. In fact, they even left the seat back there, but they modernized the flight engineer out, so that's what all of that automation is up there. And so we're going to start up the old APU, and that's looking pretty good. Now what we can do is we've got the flight plan in. It's time to do takeoff and approach. There's a lot of stuff in there, but don't worry. I can show you where to find this information really easy. And no, you don't actually have to have Navigraph to do this. So let's start over here, and we're going to go to the performance page. And here in the performance page, it's already got Memphis listed as our departure airport. So we have to click the little down arrow, and we're going to get our runway, which is going to be 36 center. So 36 center. There it is. And it'll put your runway length in feet. Now, what about the wind and the temperature, the pressure? Click it. And look at that. It went and got that. 300, 27 degrees. There you go. Pretty cool. What about your takeoff weight? You can hop into the flight management computer, and you can go and do the math, or you can just hit get takeoff weight, and our takeoff weight is 487,000 pounds. Our thrust setting is going to be flex today. Anti-ice is going to be off. Flaps will be on optimum. We don't have specific. Packs will go off, and then we'll come down here and hit calculate. And there's speeds, there's a flex temperature, and a flap setting. So our flaps for takeoff is going to be 25. Let's go and set flaps with dial-a-flap. This is a cool little thing that they have in McDonnell Douglas in the MD11 and the Mad Dogs. And no, it's not one of those late-night commercials on old-school TV. Call 1-800-DIAL-A-FLAP. So there it is. 25 is our flap setting. So dial-a-flap is set. And now what we'll do is we'll start plugging in some data. And we'll start with the flex temperature, 59, and remember flaps. Okay, so 59 degrees is our flex temperature. Flaps are going to be 25. Slope and wind. If you come over here and have a look at this. It says slope is 0.6. That's plus. So the runway is sloping up a little bit, 0.6%. So come down here and go plus 0.6. And then do a slash. And then it wants your wind. So come over here and take a look at this. And it says tailwind of 1 knot. Okay? So what we need to do there is go -1 for a tailwind. And there you go. That's how you get it. You can also get that information if you go digging around in Navigraph too. Coming up over here, the last thing we want is the temperature. And it's 27 degrees Celsius. So put in 27 and don't forget the C, otherwise it'll yell at you. And then it gives you some speeds. Well, our computer here said 138, 151, and 162. This says 145, 151, and 162. I'm going to go with a little bit faster on this airplane. Make all the chicken sounds you want for me here, but it's a big old heavy jet. I'd like a little bit more speed to make that work. We also have a backup altimeter, so 3000. And we have a backup artificial horizon. Let's go and uncage that, get that ready to go. I used to wait until the engines were started on this because in the old school, to uncage the old things, I think that they were required a vacuum because the old, some airplanes have a vacuum system. And you have to wait until the engines, but these are all electric, so you can go and throw that on right now. Okay, the APU is now on, so we can come up here, and I'm going to turn off external power, and we're going to come down here and turn on the APU bleed. And you'll hear more blowers starting to go as air from the APU starts running through the duct system on the airplane. And then from there, we can come over to services, and I'm going to disconnect the ground power unit. Let's come on down here, and I'm going to turn on the parking brakes. Let's go ahead and squawk 2000. Not on VATSIM, but we're going to squawk. And pretty much the airplane is all set and ready to go. We do have a couple of people. Tom Hanks is back there deadheading with us. So we're going to do no smoke to auto. And seatbelts are just going to go flat out on at the moment. And now we're going to go ahead and use this normal checklist. Again, for this old airplane, if you can find one online, and it's a simple Google search, and then I like to print some of these up, put them in a little plastic thing so I can use them, because the startup on this is different than the Boeing, it's different from the Airbus, and I'm starting to run out of RAM up here as far as all the airplanes that I'm flying, so this kind of saves me. Gear pins, pitot-static is checked, cabin signs are on, the flight control panel is set, the speed band is set, and taxi is showing up. Altimeters are set, fuel's been verified, SD and system modes are auto, takeoff data has been inserted, the auto brakes are going to take off. The takeoff warning. Okay, the takeoff warning system is the throttles. Push all 3 forward.
Stabilizer. Flap. Flat.
And that's Betty doing all the things that have not been set for your takeoff. So that's been done, and then our flap takeoff setting, dial a flap, has been done too. The cockpit checklist is done. And at this point, we're going to say that the cabin is now secured, and I'm going to turn on the beacon, and that tells our ground crew that it's okay to come on over here and connect the tug. I have my parking brakes on, so I'm going to look down here and remove my wheel chocks. And I'm going to call that tug. This is a little thing called Pushback Helper. It is really, really nice to have. Okay, the next thing we'll do, you can get Navigraph charts in here. I haven't signed into this particular airplane. This Navigraph charts is a little more primitive than some of the other iPad charts, so I'm probably not going to use that one very much. Plus, the Navigraph app here is so nice. So let's go out here. We're going to hide this. Let's come on up here, and we're going to zoom all the way into the airplane. And this is going to be my ground map. I'm going to hit the little target there, and that will center the airplane for our taxi out today. And it looks like this is all good. If we were on VATSIM, we'd be calling for permission to push and start. And we're good and clear, so let's go ahead and hop in and do that thing. I'm going to go and do parking brakes off. Oop, I'm going to lock my gamer seat here. Otherwise, I'll tilt back when I do the rudder pedals. Parking brake is off. And back we go. Oh, I disconnected the tug. Whoops. Let's reconnect it. Hit the wrong button. And that means it's going to be a little freaky right now because I did that. But let's go ahead and reverse out. And then the tug will make itself look right. And out we go. Before start checklist, while we are pushing here today, the cabin's secured. Mobile phones are off. Yes, my checklist actually says turn off your mobile phones. Engine ignition. Engine ignition is going to go on. I think you also need to turn on the auxiliary hydraulic pump. The beacon is on. System modes are auto. Parking brake is off. And we can go ahead and start some engines here. I'm going to go ahead and start a spin to the left here while we come on down here. And we're going to go ahead and hit engine number 3. The light goes on. Looking down here, you could see the N2 of engine number 2 is going up. The book says about 15%. Inga and Claudia on the famous YouTube videos about the MD11 flights from Lufthansa Cargo, they were doing that at 17%. And as we look up, you can see I kind of missed my pushback line there. That's okay. And we'll stop. Let's come down here and turn on the brakes and release that tug. And the tug didn't follow us there because I let it go. And there goes an engine. Okay, so we're going to get rid of Pushback Helper. Pushback Helper is free. You can get it at flightsim.to. Works with every airplane. And it's just a real handy little app to have there. Engine number 3 is coming up just fine. Your start sequence on this airplane is 3, 1, and 2. In fact, let's go ahead. Starting engine number 1. Look over here. N2 is going up. Announce engine 1 starts. We're looking for 17%. You're also going to be a good pilot and check your oil. 15, 16, 17. So let's go turn that on. I'm going to hit my engine button now. And as we look over and monitor engine start, engine oil is looking good here on engine number 3. Engine number 2 is coming up. None of the oil quantities are going down. If all of a sudden you start the engine and the oil quantity goes down, it's sort of like, uh-oh, oil leak. Not the best of news. Okay, so that looks really good. The start sequence is over when that light goes out, so starting engine number 2. And that's the big engine up in the tail, which is exactly the same as the other engines. Let's get to 17%, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Fuel. So as you look out here, you see these engines are kind of small, right? But boy, this big one up here is really long. That's just the air inlet. Most of this is just an empty tube that feeds the exact same size and type of engine here. So all 3 are interchangeable like that. All 3 go into reverse. So even the engine up on the tail. And there goes engine number 2. And the N1 is coming up. It should stabilize at about 25%. Oil is all in a good shape too. 22, 23, 24, and 25. We're now done with the APU, and all you have to do is turn off the APU bleed. The APU will shut itself down automatically. And at this point, if we needed anti-ice, we could come over and turn on anti-ice. System modes remain auto. The after start checklist is good. We'll go ahead, and since it's a long taxi, we're going to do our pre-takeoff taxi stuff while we're on the roll. So taxi lights are going to go on. Look over here. Nobody's over there. Look over there. Nobody's over there. Parking brakes are going off. We're going to start squawking Mode Charlie, and that's the thing. So I've got my toe brakes on to make sure we don't move anywhere. Looking up here on the transponder, so you can come over here, and I'm on transponder here. It's a little awkward to see, but to squawk Mode Charlie on taxiways on VATSIM, you need to slide over here and hit altitude reporting. Even though we're not on the ground, that's how you squawk Mode Charlie. So you have to have this at least on transponder and mode chart and altitude reporting, so that you are squawking the way VATSIM wants you. It's not the way they do it in the real world. It's the way you got to do it here on VATSIM. To get started, all three little engines are going to go up here and look outside. And when you start moving, let's go and get over on our center line. And as the airplane keeps going, looking good. And then at this point in time, you'll then look down, and we're going pretty good. So wing engines to idle, and then use that center engine to keep you going, to keep you rolling down the taxiway. And out we go. There is an important setting that you need to have set in this particular airplane right now. The developers know about this problem, but to fly this airplane successfully, you need to make a change in your sensitivities over on the elevators. Okay, your joystick, your yoke. Okay, that's going to control pitch up and down. And I'm going to show you where it is. Don't worry. But if you don't, the elevators are monster, super duper sensitive. And you'll just pitch up and down, especially on landing and takeoff, like a drunken, porpoise or something, dolphin. So it really is an important thing to do. Okay, coming on out here, we're basically going to taxi down to the center line here. So to do this one, we're going to make our turn right here. And then as we got a big old long taxi, that's when we'll go about doing the final setup, and I'll show you the sensitivity. So throttles are now idle. We're clipping along pretty good at about 17 knots. Start your turns a little bit late in this airplane. Remember, you're sitting quite a fair distance forward of your nose wheel. And then once you get started again, I'm going to just inch my center engine up a little bit to keep my taxi going. Otherwise, this thing, especially fully loaded with fuel and everything, will just come, grinding to a halt. Okay, real world, we would have not crossed that runway. We would have waited for permission to cross the runway, but we're kind of doing our own thing. Coming up here, we've got a little bit of a bridge. So while we're coming across the bridge, we'll come over here and there's our leading edge slats. And if you go out and look along the wings, very, very long slats start going down. That's the leading edge slats. This is a bridge up here, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're going to continue with flaps 25. And the flap sound on this is pretty good too. And there's a really cool little roadway. There are some airport sceneries that are doing an incredible job with multi-level, so that roadway clearly is going under this taxiway. It's pretty amazing, the work they're doing. While we're doing this here, let's come on down, and we're going to now hit the config button. So config button while we're taxiing, and then we're going to get on this little straightaway here, and we're going to do control checks. I'm steering mostly with rudder pedals right now. There is a nose wheel tiller. I think you probably use rudder pedals for gentle turns like this, and the tiller for other things, for sharper turns. Okay, so now that we got that, we'll come over here and quickly do elevator all the way forward, all the way back, ailerons all the way forward, all the way back. We'll do the rudder later because we're steering. Trim setting. So you saw over here that my trim setting, I need a number for that, and that's right here on the takeoff page. Stab is 5.2, stabilizer trim. So we're going to do stabilizer trim. But let's do this little jump to the right and turn to the left here. And we'll continue the taxi and set up there. Normally we'd be talking on the radio and watching out for other traffic, so you probably wouldn't be doing all of this setup as you're taxiing like this. You'd have the airplane completely ready to go before you're ready to start rolling around. Okay, looking good. I'm going to run my throttle here down a little bit more. Okay, so stabilizer trim, it's 5.2. So let's come over here. Oh, that's the other wrong way. And 3, 4, 5.2. There we go. Stabilizer trim is set. Let's also go ahead, and another pre-takeoff item is spoilers, speed brakes. Click the top, and when it lifts up like that, it's armed and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and slow us down a little bit here. Okay, as we're flying along here, I'm going to go ahead and let's look at this setting here, okay? This is for your elevators only. So let's go ahead. We're going to go to our parking brakes, our toe brakes, slow down. You see, it takes a little bit to stop the airplane too. It's a big, heavy airplane. Okay, hit escape. Go to your control options. Come on over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to our setting for the stick. And as you can see, I've got the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus pack. Go to sensitivities and move your joystick forward and backwards. Okay, you see that? I've changed this sensitivity on these two to -75. My ailerons were, you could see, -39, but I really kicked these up to 75. That helps out a lot. The thing that's jumping around here, this is the nose wheel tiller. That's the twist stick. And the twist stick is one of those problem things with Thrustmaster sticks that just becomes a problem. Now then, when you go in and out of this, did you notice it raised my flaps? Okay, so you got to put your flaps back down. So if you exit out of the airplane, it's going to change a few things. So you got to come back and make sure. So, you know, the CRJ, if you go out, if you hit escape to change a control configuration while you're cruising along at 35,000 feet, you get back in the airplane and it shuts down your engines and extends the rat. And there you go. Now, because it extends the rat, you'll have a little bit of power, so you would start your APU and you could, you know, establish, you know, a nice gentle glide and descent. Then as the APU powers up, you can restart your engines in the air. I speak from experience. It has happened. It is scary and it is annoying. Okay, so all of that looks good. I'm going to go back to the engine page now. And we have got on the back side of my checklist the takeoff checklist. Flight controls are checked and set. Flaps are set. Spoilers are armed. Trim is set. And the EAD box. It says EAD stands for Engine and Alert Display. And the EAD is a box right here under the engines, and it's this green box right here. If we were not ready for takeoff right now, this box would be white and it would be saying something like flaps if your flaps weren't set. Excuse me, or trim, or speed brakes or auto brakes. It does not say coffee. So that you're on your own for your pre-takeoff coffee. But that's how it is. That's in the Airbus. That's your takeoff config button right there. Okay, so everything else is looking good. Let's go ahead and get the autopilot ready to go. I'm going to come over here and hit auto flight once. That's the big bar in the middle. Notice how it took the white out of there. Up, got to turn. Okay, center engine now to idle. Let's also come over here. We're going to climb on the profile. We're going to use nav and FMS speed for depart. So I've gone in and turned all those three on. And if you look down here, you can see nav is armed, profile is armed, and you're all ready to go there. Okay, how's our speed? We are trucking along here at 20 knots of ground speed. Generally, you want to make a turn, a 90-degree sharp turn at about 10 knots. So I'm just doing some gentle pressure on my toe brakes. There's 12, 11, 10, release the toe brakes. We're right at 10 knots. This is going to be perfect for our 90-degree turn. And it might pick up a little bit of speed as you're going, but that's okay. We're going a little over the line because the nose wheel's behind us. As you go into the turn with this, I'm going to increase the thrust on my center engine a little bit. And then if we look outside, you can see, wow, we're right where we're supposed to be. So by staying a little bit, remembering, so here we are sitting up here in the cockpit. The nose wheel is by the bear's nose here. So that's how far you have to go. That's how far ahead of your nose gear you are. So that probably makes for interesting steering for people that are new to this airplane. Okay, I'm going to add a little more power. We're just going to cross runway 36 right like we own the place. Next thing, especially if you're taking this thing in a VAT sim event, okay, there's this thing called takeoff fuel, and it's over on your flight plan, and it's really important if you're sitting in, your number 8 for departure, and it's sort of like, oh my God, are we running out of fuel? It does a calculation for you here, and I'm just going to wait till we get up here, and we'll stop and make that check. Now, right now, we're going to have a ton of extra fuel, no problem. But in a VAT sim flight, you definitely want to make sure that you board extra fuel for taxi and stuff, especially if it's a big event. Okay, there's brakes and parking brakes and good. So over here, we're going to need the fuel gauge. So right now we got 5,300 pounds fuel. Okay, over here on your flight plan, there is this line. It's got its own line, minimum takeoff fuel, okay? And our minimum takeoff fuel is 50,395. So I'm going to round it up. 50.4 is what you need. If you don't have 50.4, you're going to be a little short. I'm at 52.9. I always board extra. We're in good shape. We're good to fly. So that's your fuel check. Now with that, we're going to come down here. I'm going to turn on my high intensities. I'm going to ring the bell. Let anybody back there know that we're going to go and take off. So let's also zoom in, and I'm going to do my landing lights, one click, and that's going to take, so on the sides of the airplane here, if you look real carefully, it's hard to see, but the landing light's right here by the bare cheek. So there's the landing light. So they kind of come out from the side of the airplane. And those are your landing lights. You can see the taxi lights are on. Okay, so those are out. But I don't turn on my landing lights until I'm lined up down the runway. And here's the exact reason why. See, we got a taxiway over here on the other side. ATC just called, tower called, FedEx 441, runway 36 center, line up and wait. If I go and I turn on my, I've turned on my strobes, tell the world, hey, this airplane's going to go onto the runway. We mean business here, kids. So I've got my strobes flashing on the wingtips and on the tail of the airplane, but I'm not going to turn on the landing lights because if there's an airplane sitting over here, then we're going to blind that pilot. I mean, these are bright lights. So you wait until you're pointed down the runway, and the very last thing you do is turn on your landing lights when you're down the runway. It's also a symbol for the tower that says, hey, I'm going, and lets them know. And I do that all the time, even if there isn't another airplane, and even if there isn't another taxiway on the other side. It's just a good habit to get into, not turning on your landing lights until you're pointed down the runway. That way you're not blinding anybody. Landing lights on. I think we're ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to get us centered up there, and I'm going to push my throttles up halfway. In the Airbus stuff, it's good. It's the first detent. And I'm going to look down at my engine instruments, and I'm going to say, okay, they're stable. And so now I'm going to push them up to the second one, and that's usually enough to make sure that the auto throttles will catch it there. And so as we're running down the runway, I'm looking down here, and that's going to it just changed to clamp, and that tells me auto throttles have got us. All we have to worry about is flying. There's 100 knots. Little bit of a crosswind. Okay, there's V1. Hands off the throttles and rotate. And gently pull the nose up. As you saw, I kind of pulled it up a little hard there. It's still very sensitive. Positive rate of climb. Gear going up. Listen to the gear handle. I mean, that's a great gear handle. It is. Okay, bring the map in a click. I forgot to turn on traffic data at airports. I forgot to go to Terra mode. Still flying by hand here. And it wants us to do our turns, so follow the flight directors. And we're not climbing fast enough. There's our turn. Aha, flight directors are coming around. Amazing airplane. Really kind of majestic in a way. It's so big. Okay, there we go. Roll out. We're not climbing fast enough. So we need to pull the nose up a touch more. Flaps. And autopilot. So I'll hit auto flight a second time. AP's got us. No shame in going to the autopilot here in Flight Sim, even if it's earlier than the real world. Here's the reason why. If you're on VATSIM and you're in a busy VATSIM event, this cockpit was designed for 2 people. There's one of you. And you got to change frequencies, talk on the radio, blah, blah, blah. No shame in my mind about going to the autopilot with this thing. Okay, SR, slats retract is up. So let's come on and do that.
Altitude.
Betty is checking in, telling us 5,000 feet. AT is climbed. Called in, said climb and maintain 13,000 feet. So we'll continue the climb. And I dialed in 16,000 feet. So we'll just change that because we're in charge right now. And out we go. After takeoff items, we come over here. There is no after takeoff checklist, but I heard the Lufthansa cargo pilots called them after takeoff items, which is auto brake and the speed brake. And if you watch one of the pilots in one of those videos, basically just kind of clunks it down with her fist like so. It's just a real sharp clunk. Again, this is a clunky old MD. It's great. It's cranky, but it's fun, and clearly I have a weird sense of fun, so there you go. All right, all of this is looking really good here, so we're coming on out. There's Rick X, our climb's good. ATC called again, said climb and maintain flight level 230. So come on over here, and 23,000 feet. And you're going to want to dial those dials, like the altitude and stuff, really, really fast, because we have to work. If you can take a break and slow it down just a little bit, it gets better. We're at 250 knots. That's perfect. There's 10,000 feet. You can see now we're speeding up. So we'll come on up here. And we're going to do landing lights and nose line. I'm going to do a cabin call. I always do one at 10,000 feet. Not to turn off the seatbelt, just say, hey, 10,000 feet. I don't know why. I think it's because commercial airline that that I'm a passenger on all the time, they always do the ring the bell at 10,000 feet. I think that's the clue for the flight attendants to get on and remind the passengers that the seatbelt sign is still on and you can't get up. So sit down. No, you can't go to the bathroom yet. And we're going to bring the map out a little click. Out we go. Looking down here, this looks great. So now we're going to go, and I'm going to go FMC2. I'm going to go ahead and I usually do flight plan on this one. And over here, now that we're done with that, I'm going to go to progress on this side. We are, let's see, 502 miles away from Houston. Everything's looking good here, passing 12,000 feet. ATC called again, says climb to your final cruise, which is flight level 340. 340. And the airplane will just climb. Everything is pink here. That means we're in profile mode. It's going to handle the climb, the speed, and everything. If it's not, you might have to go and adjust some of that yourself. And all of that looks really, really good. Now then, the next thing I'm going to do is come here and I'm going to readjust my dial-a-flap. I'm going to readjust this to 15 degrees. So 15 is perfect as we're coming on in. So I'll have a flaps 15, and then 28 and 35 is going to be my flaps coming on in. Okay, so that looks really good. This does not do anything. This is basic information. This is not giving you arrival information or anything like that. Like I said, you can put your Navigraph charts in here. This is one of the more primitive Navigraph charts apps. So in my case, I usually leave it on dispatch, and then I use Navigraph here. And then this is going to be my moving map and everything else. And so I usually leave that right over there on the other monitor. It's very nice to have. Another thing you can do with Navigraph is if you've got Wi-Fi in your computer and some sort of a tablet, you can put Navigraph on your tablet like the real pilots, and it's pretty cool. I don't do that simply because I'm a live streamer, and if I'm doing stuff over here with my iPad, chances are you might not see it. So I have to come on over here, and I just do it this way. It's easier so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that looks really good. I might need a little bit of extra coffee here. You've got that, right? Yeah, co-pilot. Okay, come on over here. Come on down here. Oh, warning, step down. And open the door now. And yeah, there's a step. Step down. And we come on back here. And we got a lavatory. Nothing's in there. And they left the galley in here. And there's the coffee pot right there. And that cup looks a little dirty. That's why you bring your own cup, right? Okay, come on over in here. You can see we've got two very comfortable chairs. This is basically so that you can close these big heavy curtains here. There's one in the middle, and you can put a shade over this, and you can turn these into a bed, and you can sleep there. They've got oxygen panels. There's a microphone to talk to the captain. They've even got a flashlight back there. There's the door handle. The door handle doesn't work in here. You can't click it. And then there is lighting. I don't think that works. So you can kind of come around here, go back in here, and you can see we've got all sorts of big cargo containers. And there's the big door. So that's the big door right over there. So you can go ahead and walk back in there if you need to. So not a bad cabin for this. There is our step to step up. And step up. Come on around here. We'll close the door. There's the old flight engineer seat. They left that in there. Probably one of the most comfortable jump seats in aviation, because jump seats are notoriously very, very lumpy. We got some cup holders back here. There's a place for your suitcases, your hats, and stuff. There's a spot down here for your pilot's briefcase. And there's a flashlight down there. There is your flight manual. They've got a place to plug in your iPad, which I believe you could unplug your iPad if you want to. And that's over there. There's the nose wheel tiller. This is how you would crank open your pilot's window there. So pretty cool. Up passing 24,000 feet. Missed transition, so click the bottom part of the altimeter to 2992. And usually at about 25,000 feet, I'll switch seatbelts from on to auto. And that works pretty good. This looks good, and out we go. And that's a takeoff with this thing. So landing, very nice too. It's very well set up. I think one of the things is if you do decrease the sensitivity of your elevators, that's going to help stabilize your descent, especially when you're ready to turn off the autopilot. I probably might want to do that with the ailerons too a little bit, but right now it seems to be okay. And we're doing great. We're 464 miles away from Houston. As we look down here, there is our flight plan. And it's got all sorts of good information in here. The top of descent for us today is going to be after the SWB VOR. What is that? Sawbones or something? It's called Sawmill. That's close. So after Sawmill is our top of descent. Coming up on 26,000 feet. So generally what I'll do, and as we get a little bit closer, you don't end up with a top of descent indicator in this, I don't think. I've never seen it. But you will get a top of descent hockey stick here. So if we go and we increase the map a little bit, let's turn off airports. If you look over here, you can see that we've got a top of descent hockey stick, just like Airbus. So here we come. Usually ATC would have given us a direct to. How about a direct to Cayman? Direct to Cayman. Let's give ourselves a nice direct to. There we go. Direct to Cayman. That'll save a little bit of time. Looking down here, after Howland. So as we come over there, so yeah, this is going to take us to the south of Houston. It's going to take us to the south of Houston and to come over here on runway 08 left. Right, that's the one we're going to grab. And then after 08, after landing here on 08 right, we'll probably get November. After November, we'll come down here, probably taxi along here to Romeo Alpha, go over the car bridges, come back down here, and head on here to Cargo Land here. Oh, it looks like this central cargo here is going to be in this map area. Let's go and grab that chart, the gates chart. So look down here, parking gates. And so, yeah, it just barely shows up there. So really it's not there. Parking gates parking gates continued. Is this Cargo Land? This is Central Cargo, and that's East Cargo. Okay, so there you go. Taxiway Whiskey Hotel. Let's grab this one. So as we come over here, there is Whiskey Hotel. This is where we're going, and I believe FedEx is down here. So we'll come on down here. This is going to be all the other cargoes there. So we'll do that, and that will probably be good. So we get a nice little tour of Houston, and then come on down. So now we've essentially done a very, very loose translation of our arrival briefing. So that's done. Rather than make you sit here and listen to my incredibly ridiculous sense of humor, generally what I will do on a flight like this is I will go and pause the video. So if you're flying with me, you're going to pause the video too. And what we do is we figure out, okay, when do we restart the video? So over here you can see our hockey sticks coming over here. That's 160 miles right around there. So let's see what the next map range is. Let's decrease the map, and this says 80. Okay, so there's our top of climb. There's Cayman. So how about, what we'll do is we're going to stop the video, and when you're on this map range here, let's go ahead and restart your video at about 80 miles. So when your top of descent hockey stick hits 80 miles, that's when you're going to go ahead and hit the button again. Now, if you're just watching the video, this is just going to be a nice little edit. We'll keep going from there. And that's how that works. But as you can see, our airplane is flying along really, really nice. Our cute little panda bear is looking really unbearably cute. And we're just going to continue on. So, see you 80 miles from top of descent. Don't touch that remote. Welcome back. I guess that's pretty close. Looks like our top of descent hockey stick is right on the 80 mile range. You can see the airplane is flying along really good. Our direct tube probably saved us a little bit of time, and we got about 5,000 extra pounds of fuel. So welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope that this first part of this video has helped you, take a look at some of the buttons I'm pushing to help you get this amazing airplane up in the air. Now let me see if I can show you at least what it is that I'm doing to help get the airplane on the ground. I really haven't done anything. I did do a quick fuel and time check. The way you look at a fuel and time check is you check a waypoint here. So grab your flight plan. In fact, we went to that one thing, what was it, Sawbones or something? Let's see, what was it? SWB, there's Sawbones. Okay, I was close, right? Okay, so it said 40 minutes here, and the fuel should have been at 31,500 pounds. So we're at 36 here at Sawmill. So we gained about 4 minutes for our little direct 2. And then we look over here and check the fuel, and fuel is actually, the fuel is going to need to be, it's over on this one, sorry. So fuel is down here. We're at 37.9, we're at 31. We got about 5,000 extra pounds of fuel. So we're in really good shape as far as fuel and time is concerned. Top of descent is getting a little bit closer here. So as far as our descent preps right now, we already kind of took a look at the weather coming in. Right now the winds are 030 at 7 knots. So if we go to info and runways, it does show that 8 left is looking good, 8 right. So the 8s are clearly the runway of choice here. So that's going to work good. This is a little runway analysis. It's really pretty cool. But over here on the charts, let's go ahead and clean up the little stack at the bottom. We don't need the Memphis departure and ground chart, right? So we're all good to go there. And so here's the Gessner arrival. And we already looked at this a little bit. We'll come in here. There's a number of constraints. This airplane will handle them pretty good. And it's going to be 6,000 feet. So let's come on over here with our airplane is basically in profile mode. So we're going to just dial in 6,000 feet here. So 6,000 feet.
Altitude.
Betty will say altitude. And there we go. So 7 and 6,000 feet. Okay, so that's pretty well set and in good shape. Some other things that we can get ready for. Usually ATC is going to give us a little bit of advance notice about which runway. We have chosen 8 left. There's 2 ways you can put in runway information. You can put in your course, your runway heading and your frequency, or the call sign. This is the call sign for this ILS. It's India Alpha Hotel, IIAH. So we'll come down here and we're going to go to the NAVRAD page, and let's go IIAH and plug that in. Just hit ILS. And 087, we saw that on the chart. 109.7, yep, we'll be like the real pilots, verify it with the chart, and that's the correct one. Looking down here, our decision height, our baro, radar altimeter is 200 feet. That's the small number. The big number is the baro number, 295 feet. So we can go and plug that in. And that's going to be up here, and it's going to change a small little number here that is underneath. So you see where it says RA down there, radar altimeter? We're going to come over here, and we're going to flip the button, the inner button, and that's going to switch it to baro. And then we're just going to crank that little dial up to 295. There's 230, 240, 260, 270, 295. Okay? And then I'll always kind of look in here a little closer, and just to make sure that that's good. All right, that looks really, really good. Let's see. Ice is detected. Oh, holy moly. If there's ice detected, let's go to our engine anti-ice. 1, 2, 3. Engines are on. And ice is detected. So engine anti-ice just went on. Try and make sure the airplane doesn't fall out of the sky. That's what that caution light was for. Okay, engine anti-ice is on. That's good. Let's go back here to progress. We are 219 miles out of Houston. We'll be landing at 15:58 Zulu time. It's 15:17. So that gives you an idea of how much longer the flight's going to be. You can look in here and you're going to see there's our approach, and then they've got a stray line over here. So on more modern airlines, that line would be blue. On this one, what this is going to do is this is basically our missed approach. So that's the missed approach coming in there. Okay, that looks really good. I think we can also do some range rings. Let's go to fix and let's go KIAH. KIAH and fix. And let's see, DTN, that's distance, I'm guessing, and maybe a radial. So that would be probably the opposite, which would be 267. So let's do 5 miles / 267. I will set these up on the other airplanes. Oh, it didn't like that one. Okay, how about 5 miles? Was that good? Format error. 5 miles. Okay, there's 5 miles. That's nice. How about a 10-mile range ring? And how about a 25-mile range ring? All right, so that looks good, and that's going to dial rings around the airport, and that'll help us out too. I guess you can't draw the extended center line, perhaps, or I'm probably doing it wrong. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so back over here to progress. We do have a route discontinuity in the flight plan, and that is on the arrival, but that's at the end of this star and the beginning of the approach. Since there's no direct connection between the two, let's just leave that in there. It should be just fine for us. Progress goes over there, and all that looks good. Let's go to performance. And oh my gosh, look at this. It's already figured out that we're going to KIAH. We are planning runway 8 right. There's 8 right. It's dry. Let's get weather information. Holy moly, it got it. 2987. Is that it? Yep, that's correct. So now we've got our weather information for our arrival. And let's go ahead and landing weight. Will it do this itself, or do we need to do it ourselves? Flaps 30. I think we need to do our landing weight. So how do we do that? The way that I've learned to do this is we need to get our zero fuel weight. And so the zero fuel weight over on the payload page, it can't be used right now. Okay. So let's see. That doesn't work. We can get our zero fuel weight, which we know is 100% our zero fuel weight from the flight plan. So our zero fuel weight is 436.9. Okay, and let's use the calculator because I haven't had enough coffee this morning. So 436.9. Whoops, clear. 436.9. Cool. Now then, let's come over here and we're going to check to see what fuel we're expecting when we land. And the EFOB, estimated fuel on board when we land, is 31,800 pounds of fuel. Right now we're at 35, so let's go ahead and add that to this. So plus 31.8, and that equals 468,700 pounds. Let's just put that in there and see what happens. So let's try 468.7. 468.7. And let's hit calculate. And it looks like estimated landing distance for runway 8 right is going to be 1,952 feet. We have 7,992 feet. Landing distance is available, and that's with auto brakes low and reversers set to all and flaps 35. So there we go. We've got enough. We can do auto brakes low or minimum, let's do that. Save a little wear and tear on the brakes. We'll have a little anti-ice too. So hopefully I did that right. Let's just go over here and put in the big number. Let's go 468,700. Let's just do a big number and see what happens. No. Oh, okay. Yeah, it likes the bigger number. Okay, so it looks like it's about the same numbers here, but it plopped that in very nice. So, we need about half the runway to land today. That's not bad. And we're gonna, excuse me for the sniff, allergies and stuff. Let's see, so it's got our winds, it's got our temperature, 29.87. Let's just leave it there. And, oh my gosh, while we were busy rabbit-holing that, the airplane took care of business, and it started our descent. So we're descending right now, and here at D Lake, we have to be above flight level 240. The airplane should handle that just fine. And our next stop is, there's 32,000 feet. So learn something new today. That's the cool part. And, you know, if you're new to this flight sim stuff, wondering what's going on here, I mean, the chance to learn new things is really pretty awesome in Flight Simulator. There are so many cool things to learn. And if you really like airplanes and stuff, holy moly, there's all sorts of other great opportunities to learn things. So pretty nice. Let's go ahead, and we started all this by talking about Hurricane Beryl. So the pilots probably don't have access to current data. Maybe they do these days, I don't know. But we're going to go ahead and zoom our map out a little bit here. And we're going to come over here, and we're going to have it stop tracking. And let's go ahead, and we're going to put weather back in, which is going to be the radar. And I'm going to hit the now button. And let's hit play. And let's see what we got. So it looks like one of the rain bands here has already gone through Houston. Looks like it's breaking apart, as it usually does. As these things spin and spin and spin like this, once that rain band, once these things start to hit the land, nothing tears up a hurricane more than land. So that's once these things hit, make landfall, hit the shore, that's going to reduce its punch a little bit. But we need to keep an eye out because you can see some bright colors here. We got some embedded thunderstorms here. Plus, the other thing is we've got, there's the center of the low. You can see the center of the circle there. This northeast, northwestern quadrant of the storm, this is the part where the nasty stuff is. That could also fire off a tornado and stuff too. So we're just going to watch out and just watch our weather in there too. I don't know about weather radar on this particular airplane. I do know that we have a basic weather radar that's working pretty good in the new 777. So let's go down here and see what we can do. Let's go and do mode weather and gain. Let's go ahead and put this about midway. We're going to tilt down a little bit. And let's come up here, and I'm going to hit the weather brightness and see if we've got some, let's see, range 80, it's in terrain mode. There's weather mode. Let's bring the map in a click. And again, I don't know if this is working. I haven't used it yet, but let's see if we get a little bit of radar return on this airplane too. More experiments here, right? Still says no ice is detected now. So let's go ahead and turn off anti-ice for the moment. Probably should have checked the outside air temperature before I did that. Outside the airplane, the temperature is, I forget, they're different places for different airplanes. Let's see, ground speed, true air speed, blah, 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 not there. And looking over, total air temperature, 13 degrees. We're above 10, that's perfect. Life is good. Okay. There's 24,000 feet. Let's tell anybody back in the cabin that they're going to do seatbelts. Seatbelts are on. Don't need local lights. It's way too bright outside, so that's really good. So seatbelts and auto brakes are set to minimum. We could also come down here and arm the speed brakes, but we might need those, so I'm going to leave those alone for a while. There is an approach checklist, and basically it says system mode check and altimeters. Our system modes are all on auto and profile. we're perfect on the descent. Coming up on Zeke here at the moment. So let's see what we got here. There is Zeke. There's going to be a speed reduction at 280 knots and above 17,000 feet at Zeke. The airplane isn't showing up here in the tracking map because this area is not to scale. But it will show up after Zeke in here. So this is going to be a great way for us to keep track of where we're going to be. The real world pilots, they're going to have something like this already on their iPad, and they'll be watching that too. But I think some of the iPads that the real pilots have a little tracker just like ours does, which is pretty good. I am also noticing as we approach Houston, the clouds are starting to increase. We're starting to see big puffy clouds, and we're starting to see billowing up like this. That's also a good indicator of thunderstorms. For the outbound flight, which we're not going to do on this video, but for your outbound flight, you're thinking, okay, we probably have to watch out for some thunderstorms on the way back to Memphis. And that looks really good. There is our hold over there for our missed approach. That's what that is. We've got descent deviation showing up here. So as long as the little pink triangle is in the middle, we have not deviated from our optimum descent path. So the only thing that's deviant here is my sense of humor. Coming up on 18,000 feet, the altimeter is 2987. So we'll get ready to reset the altimeter. And I'll bet as the afternoon goes on here in Houston, that altimeter is going to be dropping quite a bit. Okay, so 2987 there. Let's come on down here. And 2987 here.
Stabilizer motion.
Betty is still here. And she's saying that there's a little bit more of a pitch difference there in the stabilizer motion. That's the basically the trim on your elevators. And so that means it's moving more than just a little bit when Betty tells you that the stabilizer is in motion. Okay, we are just coming up on Zeke, and our airspeed is currently at 331. At Zeke, we need to be going down to 280. Does it have us at Zeke at 280? No, it doesn't. So /280. Let's see if it'll take us at Zeke at 280. Not allowed. Okay, so that means we're going to need to come over here, hit the button, and we have to do this ourselves. So now the speed's on us. Maybe if I'd been a little smarter at the beginning of all this, I would have checked all of those and done that. Okay, 280. Gonna need some speed brake here. And so now we got a little green line like this. And that's showing us slowing down to 280, which is what we were supposed to be at Zeke. So Sheriff Buford T. Justice down there could have said, I'm going to have to give you a speeding ticket there, boy. All right, looking good coming on in. Go ahead and tell the co-pilot to phone ahead and put in a delivery for a lunch order at Rudy's Barbecue or something like that. Could also put in an order for Whataburger if you'd like some Whataburger. Thought I heard the phone sound, but I guess not. Okay, there's 280, speed brake's going away. And that looks really good. So far, so good. Passing 13,000. Our next altitudes are 13 and 16 at Gessner. And we're going to be 13, so it might slow us just a bit here. We got a mile and a half to go, so that's not a problem. Not so bad. Now then, let's come on over here, and we're going to go to takeoff and approach. Flaps 35, our VAP speed is 165. Did this give us a speed on this over here? Some of them do, some of them don't. No, didn't really give us a speed. Okay, so we'll do this one. Now, when the Lufthansa cargo pilots were doing this flight that I was watching, there's a series of 4 of them here on YouTube. that's really pretty cool with the MD11. They would always take the speed that they had computed and add 1 knot to it. So they would be rattling through their V speeds and say 165 plus 1's 166. They were always adding 1 knot. So I used to do that with this airplane, but it's still a little unstable on the approach. So now I am adding 10 knots. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if that's wrong. It's what works for me. So I'm going to add 10 knots to our speed. So VAP is 165. We're landing at 175. We'll see how that works. And the approach at this point is good. Okay, coming up at Kennan, it's 250 knots. We got to slow down again. So 250 knots, and let's go ahead and click that. I don't know if you're seeing it, it's up close, but over here on all of these buttons, so the middle, you can dial it up and down. There is a top arrow for push and a bottom arrow for pull. I believe that's the way it's working, like in the Airbus in a way. So what you do is you set your speed, and then you set your speed and then go the down arrow to execute it. So after Kennan at King World, our speed's supposed to be 240. So are we at 250? Almost there. Yep, 250. Perfect. Oh, slats extend, green SE. So let's do slats. There goes our slats. And that's coming on out. And there's 250. Our next speed's 240. So we're going to come over here, and I'm just going to dial this down to 240. But I don't want to start slowing down quite yet, so we'll leave that. In other words, you could preset certain things in the autopilot, which I think is pretty neat. It's a bit of a time saver, especially on VATSIM when things are busy. 10,000 feet. I'm going to do a 10,000 foot cabin call. And we're going to come down here and do landing lights and have the taxi light ready to go on when the landing gear drops down. And there's King World. And we got about 10 miles to go there, so we'll slow down just a little bit there. And we have to, the only thing at King World's between 10 and 8,000 feet, and we got that covered. Cool. Speed brakes are down. I really do suggest, as you're looking, if you're getting started in flight simming and stuff, and you're thinking about getting a joystick and throttles and rudder pedals, which are good, by the way, and really enhance the experience. But as you're starting to pick up things, particularly if you're going to do the big jets and stuff, one of the things I'd say is get a set of throttles that has a speed brake lever. Okay, so the pilots, when they're going to extend the speed brakes, one of the rules that the big jet pilots have is on approach, if you need to use your speed brakes, if at all possible, put your hand on the speed brake lever, throw out your speed brakes, but do not remove your hand until you put them back down, because you might forget and leave the speed brakes out, and then the airplane's a little bit even more unstable coming in. So you can do that with like a Thrustmaster TCA Airbus Captain's Pack or the Boeing Pack, and you can always just leave your hand on there. Important safety tip, though, if you bump the throttles, if you bump these throttles and stuff, that's going to change that. You could bump a throttle lever, and that might reduce your left engine to idle. It's happened to me. So that's a good thing to do. Okay, coming up on that 240 speed restriction. So again, we'll come in here. Let's watch the dial. I'm going to do the down arrow, and yeah, it pulls it out, which is execute it. And so now we're at 240 at King World. Let's go and decrease the map another time. After King World, it's Eddie and Reaper. We go 240 knots to Shiv and 210 knots to Howlin'. So I hope you're having a howlin' good time. They just write themselves, don't they? So far, so good. Okay, let's see. Approach checklist said system modes are auto, or in this case, profile, which I care about. And then the altimeters are set. Next checklist is going to be landing. The EAD box that we were talking about earlier on takeoff, that EAD box is going to be green. That tells you that you got the gear down, the speed brakes are armed, Spoilers are armed, speed brakes are set, flaps are out, and at that point in time you should have a green box. And that's a good little indicator that says, hey, I'm ready to land. It's relatively safe to do that. Eddy is below 8,000 feet. We're going to be below 8,000 feet at Eddy. All is right with the world. Houston is going to be up here to the right as we go past Houston Intercontinental. So this is a great time if you have got a beverage in the cockpit, have a sip. Another good safety tip for flying around in flight sim. Look, we spend a lot of time flight simming. Okay, this is a long-term game, not 10 minutes and go and do something else kind of a game. So that means you're going to have beverages in the cockpit, right? The thing is have your beverages, so like for cold beverages, I got this really old coaster thing for that. For hot beverages, this is one of those heated mugs. So I have those things set way off to the side, way away from my flight stick, my throttles, and everything. So if all of a sudden you're reaching over for your checklist or something, you're not going to spill it, because nothing's worse than spilling something like that while you're flying. So, important safety tip. As we come on in here and look out the window, there is George Bush Intercontinental Airport, Houston Intercontinental. Hello, Houston Intercontinental. And actually, there's our runway right there, I think. So this is a good time for me to do all those things that YouTubers say. Thank you so much for flying along with me. The video's not over. I just do this now before we land. But thank you for flying along with me. I sure appreciate it. I'm relatively new on YouTube. Still just using YouTube as a cold and dark type of video channel. So, it doesn't get tons of views or anything like that. Certainly doesn't make a ton of cash and stuff. But, it's a nice place to put these videos. And I appreciate the fact that you're watching. If you like what you saw, this is how I survive. I was like a lot of people who had jobs. I got shoved out. This is how I'm keeping the lights on. So if you've got a few extra pennies or something, there's several ways to help out. Come on over to Twitch. Join us on the Spy Flight. Every flight's a group flight. You're always welcome. It's a great community. We have some real airline pilots that come in and chat with us too all the time. So 757 Spy over there. And if you can, drop a sub or two. Or if you don't do that, there's Ko-fi. I've also recently launched a Patreon channel. And what the Patreon is all about is a pre-flight briefing. And that's a little video that I do. It's about 6 minutes. It's every day that we fly on Twitch is when I put that video together. A lot of the stuff that you saw me do with the charts and the weather is what I used to do, is what I do over on Patreon. So, and of course, if you feel like hitting the like button on there and hitting the subscribe button, thanks for doing that. And if there's something that you'd like to see, on the YouTube channel, if there's an idea that you have and says, hey, you're live streaming on Twitch, why don't you do this on YouTube? I'm new and definitely open to all the suggestions that I could possibly have as I try and transition from the world of, well, not that my job was ever 9 to 5, but 9 to 5 to doing this all on my own. So, and that is enough of the commercials there. So our next speed is going to be 210 knots. So we're going to come down here and dial this down to 210, preset that, which is really helpful as we're coming in. So there is 210 knots. We're supposed to be going down to 6,000 feet. We're doing good here as we come around. Still a little bit high right now. It's not descending to 6,000. So looks like, I don't know, maybe it's not doing the 6,000 here, but it's going to grab it there, I hope. And let's go ahead and hit the button to 210 knots. And that's going to slow us down there. Let's also do flaps 15. So presetting flaps 15 was good. Auto throttles are coming in there too. That's really nice. Look out the window and we should see, well, the airport's actually probably behind us now. Yeah, there it is right there. So there's our runway. Houston's looking really nice right now. There's the direction of the storm over there. There's the clouds getting darker. I don't think that when you go into a hurricane here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you've got the swirl. You'll get rain. I think you'll get wind and clouds. I think that's about it. I don't know that it becomes a hurricane. Maybe later today on the spy flight, we're going to go ahead and after we do our regularly scheduled flights, we're going to go ahead and try and do that. Okay, we're coming to the end of the star. So I'm now going to go and hit the altitude, the heading hold, and I'm going to take over heading now. So we're doing that, and I've also started a descent to 5,000 feet. If you look here, you can see we've got glide slope and localizer. We're picking that up 9 miles away from the airport. We're going to go out just a little bit here. And we're still flying good. The panda bear is still adorable, and we've got darker clouds out there. Seat belts, brake. I think we're done with speed brakes now, so I'm going to go ahead and arm them. Clunk. Okay, so that looks good. And everything else is great. We're not ready for gear and stuff, but we're getting close. So I'm going down to 5,000 on the approach here. There's 5,000 between jelly and deploy. Let's go ahead and let it go to 4,000. So we're going to go to 4,000 and start our turn in a little bit sooner. Okay, so 4,000 is showing up there, and we're descending there, and so that means we can make our turn around jelly here. Everything is also changed here. It is now no longer pink, so we're not in profile mode. Now it's our job to control the speed and everything. And the next speed that I'm going to want to do is about 180. So I'm going to go ahead and dial in 180 up here. I'm not going to go to 180 yet, but usually that's going to be the next speed that ATC is going to give you as they say turn right heading blah blah blah, join the localizer, maintain 180 knots until 5 miles DME. So we're all set and ready for that. VAP is now 164. I'm going to still call it 175.
Altitude.
Now I'm going to also sit back in my gamer chair here, which is getting pretty old, but sit back here. Make sure that the as I put your feet gently on your rudder pedals, you can move things around. Get your microphone out of the way. Make sure that you can touch your throttles and everything, because we're going to be taking it off of autopilot in a bit. But now's the perfect time to do that. If we were on VATSIM, they'd be kicking us over to tower right now. And once they do that, one of the things I do is look at all the active frequencies in vPilot and see if there's ground. And I will try and set ground early, because one of the busiest times of a flight sim life is as you're coming in on the approach and they want you off the runway into ground quickly, and you just no way you're going to humanly be able to dial that in. So I get that done early. Coming on around, there's jelly over there. After this, we're coming in on runway, let's see, we're coming over here on runway 08 right, and we're going to try and exit November Kilo or November, taxi straight down past the terminal and over here to FedEx Land. That's our plan. I'm going to take this map, zoom it all the way in, make sure it keeps this centered, put it over here. That's my moving map on the ground, because we need that. Okay, ATC is going to now say turn right heading 90 degrees, probably what, about 360? So turn right heading 360 degrees. There is 360, and execute the turn. And a nice turn we've got over the Houston. That looks like a big old shipping area there. I think one of the cool things about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2 is the fact that we've got the satellite photography, the big maps out here like this, so that you actually, obviously it's a little bit gamey here, but it doesn't take too much imagination to think, this is what it looks like on approach right now, which is absolutely, rabbit food or, pizza and beer to a flight simmer. Okay, they're saying continue the turn now and join the ILS. So let's call it 040 degrees. Join the ILS. Or usually it's join the localizer would be this one. So we'll do that.
Stabilizer motion.
Betty is still with us. Let's bring in the map another click here. And from here, I'm going to hit approach and land. And what that's going to do is landing is now armed. Now we do have a localizer, so it should snag the localizer for us. We got glide slope too. Let's go ahead, and ATC says, hurry it up there, FedEx. We got a lot of airplanes to get in and out of here. So they said continue your turn to 070 degrees. And at this point, they might even say, cleared for the ILS approach, runway 08 right, maintain 4,000 feet till established. Reduce your speed to 180 knots until 5 miles DME. So there is 180 knots there. And flaps 28. There goes flaps 28. As we're coming on in, let's go do landing gear. Gear going down with all of the clunky sounds. And there's flaps 35. Flaps are going to 35 now. And landing is armed, so it's going to snag the glide slope and the localizer for us. Gear is out, looking pretty good there. And let's watch it make the turn around here. One of the things you'll hear, especially at times, is you'll hear random sounds like something's rattling around back in the cabin. I think they did that intentionally, but I usually hear it in the right ear. But you'll hear something that's making sounds. Are we about to grab that localizer? Come on, airplane. There it goes. It takes a little bit of time, but doesn't take that much time. All right, so auto brakes are minimum. Let's see, we've armed the speed brakes, right?
Stabilizer motion.
Speed brakes are armed. Gear is down 3 green. Flaps are set. Now I'm going to go ahead and just manually dial my heading straight up. If we got to go missed approach, that at least gets me going in the right direction there. Looking pretty good there. We are 15-mile finals right now. They probably would have slowed me down about now. I probably slowed down a little bit too soon on this. But everything is good there. Flaps are 35. So flaps are set for our flaps 35 landing. So there is a control that you've got that you can use that's called, there's 2 thrust reversers options in Microsoft Flight Simulator. One is toggle, the other I can never remember the name. Or I think it's reverser hold. I believe in the PMDGs, I have my reversers set to hold. So what you have to do is when you land, even though the auto throttle is going to be running things until we touch down, I'm going to manually be pulling my throttles back as we're getting ready to land, okay? And then with them all the way down at idle for touchdown. At touchdown, one of my auto throttle disconnect buttons, one of the red buttons for the Airbus, that is my reverser hold button. And I'm going to hold it down and advance my throttles forward just a little bit, and then look down here to see if it says reverse. If it says reverse, then that's good news. Next speed for me, it says 164, plus 10 is 174. So I've armed 174, but I have not engaged yet. I do not have an EAD right now. I'm trying to figure out what I have forgotten. Everything's good up there. I've got the airport, I've got the runway, we got glide slope, we got localizer, land is armed. We are coming up on Mayton. That's usually 5 miles DME. We're 9. So that looks pretty good. We'll go to our final speed then. Airplane looks great. Clouds don't look too terribly stormy around the Houston area right now. Coming over a big truck zone.
2,500.
Betty is still aboard. Hasn't grabbed the parachute yet. That's a good sign, right? Last sip of the coffee. And this is looking good. Yeah, so Mayton's going to be about 5 to 6 miles. And that's usually what you're going to get, is about 5 to 6 mile finals before, at 180 knots. So almost there. Almost there. Okay, there's Mayton. It's 5.8. I'm going to go to our landing speed, and we're at flaps 35. I generally have found that full flaps with this thing, I'm having a hard time controlling it. So that's why I'm doing flaps 35. Also, the winds have been a little bit gustier lately. We've had some gusty landings, so that makes it a little bit easier. Okay, final check. We're all good. Nothing really to change. If we were on VATSIM, I would have had ground control dialed in about now, if possible. Get all of that stuff done before you decide to go and disconnect the autopilot. Looking good so far. I'm going to go and last thing, check the wind. I've got 3 knots down the runway, and 4 knots down the runway, and 3 knots, 1 knot from the left blowing me to the right. AP
Autopilot
off. And usually I have to pull the nose up just a touch after I disengage the autopilot. This is not an Airbus. It does not automatically trim. And then I just, even if VATSIM has said do a visual approach, I'm still going to go ahead and dial in an ILS if I can, so that I've got glide slope and localizer. I'm gently coming over here and putting my hands on my throttles. I'm trying not to move them at the moment.
400.
I'm gonna, not really touch the throttles until I know I'm landing. And we haven't got a go around, so now I'm gonna go and start reducing those a bit, even though the auto throttles got us.
Minimum.
Landing. And I'm now retarding my throttles all the way, but the engines have still got us here.
50, 40, 30, 20.
Throttles are idle. Reverse. I'm a little off to the side. I heard that. You hear that rush of air? That's the reversers. And now I'm going to start putting the throttles up a little bit, slow us down. Well, that's halfway down the runway, and we still haven't stopped. So manual braking. So that didn't work out so well. Okay, and we are exiting to the right. Well, at least we don't have to taxi by the terminal here. This is where we want to be. Minus 254 according to Flow Pro. That is not a bad landing speed at all. I'll take that. And out we go. There is the Houston United hangar. Not quite as nice as the Denver hangar. And we're off the runway, and it looks like we got landing lights on and speed brakes out. So speed brakes going down, flaps are going up. We're blinding people on the ground, so landing lights going off, strobe lights going off, and making our turn around there. And this is November Bravo. I don't know about you flying into Houston. Everything is November Alpha, November Bravo, November Golf, Whiskey Romeo, Whiskey Tango. The number of double name lettered taxiways here just becomes word salad in my ears. Okay, looking good here. Let's see. Speed brakes automatically disarm themselves. Auto brakes you do have to turn off. Come on down here. We're going to go out of Terra mode. And everything is good to go up there for the moment. Let's go ahead and we're going to shut down traffic, data, and airports. And then we're going to come over here. And this is how we taxi by here. So a little bit over this. And start our turn. Might need a little differential braking if you're too fast too. And then you're going to probably, if you do need to do differential braking, you're going to have to kick your throttles up just a little bit. Not so bad. TFDI, the developers of this airplane, are still developing the airplane. They're putting out pretty regular updates. Almost updates as early, once a week. Once a week updates. So they're really serious about bringing this thing to life. I'm so glad that they have been able to go and release this. It had been released only to the hold that thought. Here we are. We're coming over another one of those bridges. So another one of those taxiway bridges, which is really pretty cool that the developers are putting into the scenery. I mean, the little air bridges like that are cool. But anyway, it was only available to the collector's edition people for the longest time, but now it's out, and I think you're going to see probably a lot more 777s on VATSIM right now. The PMDG 777 is another amazing airplane. I did a video on that recently. Let's see, we need to turn off weather radar. So let's hit the off button on weather radar. We don't want to cook people on the ground. And we're going to go over another bridge and then grab this taxiway over to cargo land. Uh-oh, I think I missed it. Oh, I think I missed this. Yeah, I missed it. We're going to have to do a U-turn. We're going to have to do a U-turn. That was our taxi over to FedEx land. But again, just super airplane this. TFDI's doing a great job of keeping it going. And around we go here. This is the Payware Airport for Houston. It's really nice. I didn't notice a bunch of hesitations and stuff. Those scenery burp, burp, burp that you get with the with scenery coming on in. So gotta say, this is a really nice airport. And so the airport and the airplane seem to be optimized fairly well. So 3 cheers to the scenery developer and 3 cheers to the airplane developer. Okay, here's our little U-turn. Messed up on this one. I think that the nose wheel still gets a little bit light. I also don't think that my twist stick works very well. So you can really be just scooting along on the nose wheel, which is not good. Notice that I haven't turned on the APU here. Generally, I think for cargo operations, what you're going to do is come in, you might turn off, if you're not going to make any more, left turns or something, you might turn off one engine. But in this case, come in with your engines, and then when you get to the parking stand, start shutting down your wing engines. Okay, but you leave the tail engine on until the ground crew puts chocks around the nose wheel and plugs in ground power. That way, you don't have to start up the APU. So we're saving a little bit of fuel and noise and pollution on that. And FedEx is right over there. So, yep, we did this pretty good. Okay, I should have made the first turn here. But you can see they did a great job of modeling the Houston airport here. And my guess is most of the airlines right now, with landfall of this storm expected to be tonight and tomorrow morning, my guess is a lot of airplanes are flying out today. And so the airlines and the Air Force, they're going to go and get all of the airplanes out of the path of the storm. And then after that, as soon as the storm passes and the airports are open, they'll get their service going again. That's to, keep the airplanes from being damaged. So now we'll come around here, just steering with rudder pedals, and another, I think this is the main highway that comes on in to the Houston airport. So that's how you get in there. And let's see, as we come out over here, let's take the middle road. You can see we've also got some pipes up over here, over the roadway. I bet that's, maybe there's the fuel farm over there. I'm off my taxi line. There's going to be some commuter. So that's for commuter. You can see the stairways to go to the small commuter airplanes as opposed to jetways. And Whiskey Bravo, this is perfect. So there is cargo land down there. And we made it. So already did thank yous. One of the things I always do like to also remind you is this is not completely about the right way versus the wrong way to fly this particular airplane. This is what I have found that works in the sim. Certainly wouldn't get on here and say that I know the right ways and wrong ways and everything else, right? I think we need to come around here and grab this turn. So hopefully what it is that I'm doing works for you. I do have some really good friends that live in the Houston area. I hope they're battening down the hatches for the big storm. There's some people that really just don't understand how to handle a storm. Fortunately, my friends are smart, and they'll take good care of themselves. But these storms, especially the ones that kind of come up there by Galveston and all, can be really kind of nasty for flooding. So around we go here. And come on down here. Actually, the day this is supposed to be released will be the day after it makes landfall. So if you want to see, I don't know if we're going to do the follow-up flight on today's live stream, but there'll be a VOD that's available over on Twitch. Okay, so I don't think we're going in here. I think that's going to be FedEx land over there. That looks like it says United Cargo. Yeah, that says United Cargo over there. And I believe this is our turn. Yeah, this is FedEx. So we're gonna come in here. So throttles to idle right now. We're doing a good 25 knots. That's way too fast. Okay, now we're at about 50 knots. The speedometer on the ground is right over there in your speed tape. There's 15, and we're going to make the turn around here. With GSX now, you're going to be able to start simulating cargo loading. And again, after the turn here, you're going to want to increase your throttles just a little bit to keep the airplane going. Keep it rolling. Yeah, so that's United Cargo over there, and this is FedEx Cargo over here. And then after you keep it rolling, we'll come around here. And we've got 4 places to park. This is a big one. Let's grab this one right here. A little bit of differential braking. Add some thrust from the left engine in the center. Maybe a little bit more. So there we are coming on up here to taxi in. Actually, this says FedEx Building 3. Not surprised. I would imagine they've got quite the operation here. Okay, so there's the little line right there. There's this line over here. So let's look over here. And that's it. I lost the line. And so we'll come here and good. There we are. Parking brakes going off. Engine number 1, engine number 2. Let's also stop squawking. So we're going to turn off FATSIM. Come on up here. Everything looks good. We're going to turn off the nose light while we're here. Come on down here. Go to services. Put in wheel chocks, put in the ground power unit, come on up here, turn on external power, come on down here, and shut down engine number 2. At that point in time, you can go and open up stuff. One of the things I hope the developer does is include a button that will, over here, that will put stairways out. That'll, maybe put a stairway out. And if they designed a stairway like they use. And one of the things I noticed on the Lufthansa cargo flights is the pilots board on this side. Did I get both of those? Oh yeah, I got past it. I forgot my cargo main. So I noticed that they have it set up so the pilots are getting on this side of the plane, which keeps them away from this one over here. I also noticed there is a bulk cargo, and I don't think it's modeled in this airplane, but they had a bulk cargo little, generic cargo door, and that's where their suitcases. As they were walking by, there was a conveyor belt, and the suitcases were going up to this little hatch back here, and I guess they were also putting some suitcases in there too. So we made it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. What a good flight. Let's just go over here and hit the landing point and see. This is a really cool little tool to see. All right, there was where we were supposed to touch down. I was a little bit on the left side of the runway, but we were still within these little hash marks here. Once you run out of these little hash marks, technically you're supposed to go around. And the landing rate was 254 feet per minute. I gotta say, 254 in a big old jet like this one, big and heavy, my guess is that's just fine. So we made it. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you found something good in this. It helps you enjoy this amazing airplane. We've got this. We got the 777. They're going to be updating the PMDG 737s and, some other favorites that I've got. The little E-Jets are amazing. So is the Phoenix A320. That's one of my favorites too. If you'd like to see a new updated video on any of those airplanes or something I didn't mention, please put something down in the comments. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Also, a like would be nice too, and a follow. In the meantime, I hope you'll also join us on Twitch. I hope you are having a really, really great weekend so far, or a week, and I look forward to seeing you in the friendly sim skies. Have a great time. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you as we dodge the clouds. Cheers. Thanks for watching. Bye.